Migingo Island. Where the fish are plentiful, the views are stunning, and the story is wilder than the Nile perch you'll catch. This tiny speck of an island has everything its inhabitants require, except for hospitals and schools, yet they manage to live in harmony and peace. How do they make it work, and what sets life here apart from living in a recognized country? A rounded rocky outcrop dotted with metallic shacks, Migingo Island rises from Lake Victoria's waters like an iron-plated turtle popularly known as the metal-clad island. This densely packed island, barely half the size of a football pitch, is a maze of corrugated iron homes. The limited amenities include a few bars, brothels, and a tiny port. For over a decade, Migingo has been a hotbed of tension between Uganda and Kenya, both of whom lay claim to it. At one point, the dispute nearly erupted into what some dubbed Africa's smallest war. While fishing communities around Lake Victoria have seen their catches dwindle over the years, the deep waters around Migingo are teeming with Nile perch. Did you know that the 2009 census recorded 131 residents, but reports from the National suggest the population had already surged to 500 by then? Let's take Isaac Buhinza, for instance. He is 22, from Uganda, learned fishing from his father, and never attended school. He was drawn to Migingo by tales from friends who returned home with plentiful catches and goodies. "I don't know which country this island belongs to. I just stay here," he says. For fishermen like Buhinza, living on the tiny island saves fuel and provides direct access to wholesale buyers, making it an irresistible location despite its challenges. However, locals hold on to an ancient tale about this land that they believe in. Migingo Island on Lake Victoria was once home to the notorious evil spirit Kalela, and no humans dared to live there. Fast forward to today, and over 130 people now call this 2,000 square meter island home. The island floats between Uganda and Kenya, yet it belongs to neither, governed instead by a rare form of democracy in Africa. Incredibly, Migingo's residents earn nearly 3 times more in a week than their mainland neighbors do in a month, around $300 a week. How do they make their fortunes, and where does all this money go? For ages, Lake Victoria has been a vital source of fish for Uganda and Kenya. But as fish stocks dwindled, the Nile perch was introduced in the 1960s to boost numbers. This big, hungry fish devoured the smaller native species, creating a new lucrative fishing industry. With demand for Nile perch soaring, neither Uganda nor Kenya could ignore Migingo's prime location. Amid this backdrop, 2 brave Kenyan fishermen, George Kebi and Dalmos Tembo, set sail for Migingo in 1991. Undeterred by tales of the evil spirit Kalela, they hired a powerful shaman, who for 300 kilograms of Nile perch banished the spirit, clearing the way for human settlement. Initially, only Kebi and Tembo lived on the island, but it wasn't long before 60 others joined them. By 2009, the population had swelled to 130, with people from Tanzania, Uganda, and Kenya. Despite its strategic position, Migingo wasn't claimed by any neighboring country, so Kebi and Tembo declared it an independent republic. Their peace didn't last. Pirates began terrorizing the fledgling community with thefts, daylight robberies, and violence. Desperate, the fishermen sought help from both Kenya and Uganda, prompting swift action from both countries. In 2004, the Uganda Coast Guard set up a police station on the island, raising the Ugandan flag over their tent. In return for protection, both countries demanded taxes from Migingo's residents, leading to fierce resistance and escalating tensions. The coast guards of both nations clashed on the island, breaking huts and cutting fishing nets, culminating in deadly gunfights. By 2009, a committee finally decreed that Migingo's fishermen must pay taxes to both Uganda and Kenya. That same year, Kenyan police, led by the prominent politician Julius Mutulaga, claimed the island for Kenya. The very next day, Uganda responded by sending 60 armed Marines. The media dubbed this the smallest war in Africa, a conflict that continues to simmer. However, the confrontation had the potential to escalate into an actual shooting war between the two countries. To prevent bloodshed, a committee was formed to resolve the issue, a classic move to shelve troublesome matters. In 2009, senior government officials visited the island to find a solution. The two sides spent over 3 hours sailing around the island while discussing the matter. They then came ashore and gave speeches, during which Kenya's Minister for Lands, James Orengo, referred to his Ugandan counterparts as hyenas. Negotiations tend to falter when such harsh words are exchanged, and everyone left the island in bad spirits. After a decade of intermittent talks, a memorandum of understanding was finally reached at the end of 2019. Kenya's Foreign Affairs Cabinet Secretary, Monica Juma, announced that Kenya owned the island, but it would be administered jointly by both nations. However, Kenyan senators labeled the deal as high treason, suggesting the entire situation is likely to descend further into absurdity. Every few months, one of the two nations sends its military to raise their flag, declaring Migingo as their own. However, the two countries eventually decided on a truce. In the end, both Uganda and Kenya began to govern the island, much to the dismay of Migingo Island's residents. And they have a clear reason for this. The fishermen were forced to pay 25% taxes on their profits to both Uganda and Kenya, plus an additional 10% to Migingo's local authorities. Despite these hefty taxes, they don't suffer much, as the Nile perch fetches a high price, allowing skilled fishermen to earn up to $300 to $400 per week. They prefer to spend the money left after taxes on the island itself, which fortunately has plenty of entertainment options. Before the mass settlement, the island boasted lush vegetation. Can you imagine how many trees there are today? Only 2 trees remain, leaning against the rickety shacks. The locals live in cramped conditions, with no regular housing or hospital. Islanders must travel to Uganda or Kenya for medical treatment. The shacks, built from corrugated iron sheets, lack baths and toilets, offering only a kitchen and bedroom. The islanders use the lake for washing and as a toilet. There is no electricity, television, or internet, but the local fishermen and their women don't seem to mind. Fishermen spend their days fishing, while their women gut the fish right on the shore. Most of the catch is sold, with the remainder dried on fishing lines or wires in the narrow passages between shacks. In their free time, Migingo residents enjoy a vibrant social scene despite the island's small size, roughly half a football field. Migingo boasts 5 bars, several hotels, a pharmacy, and a beauty salon. There are also 4 brothels, where local women work as prostitutes. Bars and brothels openly sell alcohol and soft drugs, but only to locals. Despite not seeking tourists, Migingo attracts them, leading to the construction of a few hotels with dirt floors for visitors. The more permanent buildings include a Ugandan-built police station and a small church. Ugandan police maintain order and protect tourists, who can't stay on the island for more than a day, a rule set by honorary senators Kibe and Tembo, who manage the island's affairs. Laws and rules are crafted by Senators Tembo and Kibebe in consultation with 5 other elected male senators. The Big Seven of Migingo make decisions through a general vote. The island's laws are strict but fair, particularly against theft. According to an elder, there have only been 6 thefts on the island since 1991. Petty thieves are beaten with straw whips, while grand theft or repeat offenders are expelled from Migingo forever, a fate that terrifies even the well-earning fishermen. As a result, crime is virtually non-existent, apart from occasional drunken brawls. Newcomers who might cause trouble are prevented from settling, as the construction of new houses is forbidden, effectively controlling overcrowding. Although outsiders are prohibited from establishing residency on the island, babies are still frequently born there, despite the absence of medical care. However, the island is not alone. Just 200 meters away from the tiny Migingo lies Migingo Island, which is considerably larger but sparsely inhabited due to the presence of the evil spirit Kalela. Kalela fled to Migingo after being banished from Migingo. Additionally, Migingo is home to another, even more malevolent spirit named Tuk. No shaman is willing to confront both spirits, not even for a ton of precious Nile perch. Nevertheless, Migingo Island is not completely abandoned. On Migingo, a few buildings house scientists from various countries. These researchers study the flora and fauna of Lake Victoria and keep a curious eye on their neighbors on Migingo Island. Surprisingly, the evil spirits Kalela and Tuk don't bother them. The reason? According to local beliefs, the spirits aren't interested in white scientists. Funny as it may seem, it appears that even ghosts have their own version of selective attention.